Welcome, lovely listeners, to SoulStirred, stories of growth and the human experience. I'm Emily Garcia.
And I'm Kasey Clark.
We will be your guides on this journey. We are so glad you are here.
Each week, we'll come together, sometimes with other incredible thinkers, creators, and adventurers, to generously share stories of self-discovery, recovery, triumph, and what it means to live a life on purpose.
No matter where you are in your own journey, connection is here for you at SoulStirred.
Settle in, take a deep breath in, and let's inspire each other.
Welcome to SoulStirred. Welcome back, SoulStirred listeners. Today we are here with Emmy award-winning journalist and filmmaker Robin Hamilton. Robin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of SoulStirred, so it's a pleasure.
SoulStirred's about to be a big fan of yours too. We're so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you.
So, tell our audience a little bit about you, Robin. Who are you? What are you doing here? Let's just start with let's connect.
Sure, absolutely. So I am a filmmaker and I own my own production company, and I do a lot of films. I've done a number of films about women, specifically African-American women, who I believe have changed the course of history. They're often overlooked and underestimated, and they've done remarkable things. I did a documentary about Fannie Lou Hamer that was on PBS nationwide, and she also just received the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously, which was really amazing. It was a full circle moment because I had done this short. I learned about her in college decades ago, and I always wanted to do a film about her, almost as a love letter to say thank you for this woman who really was relegated to being a footnote in history. And it got made in 2015, 2016, then was released to, was really a kind of a slow release on the film festival circuit, and then just started gaining traction and momentum until finally it got on PBS nationally. So she was a woman who had a sixth grade education, was a sharecropper, and became this incredible voice for everyone to get the right to vote. So she's one of my heroes. I think I consider her one of my North Stars. So, but I've done a number of stories about other women in history who have just fought for democracy in quiet and unexpected ways. And one of the reasons that it's so important to me was because I have felt often that everybody's voice matters. And so often it seems like there's a select few that have a seat at the table. And I wanted to be able to give other people voice. And I realized that was my desire when I was a reporter. My background started as a journalist. I was a reporter who traveled up and down the East Coast. I did some lovely feature stories, which was wonderful. It was a great training ground. But in local news, you also get sucked into this crime and weather cycle. And so I was finding myself doing crime and grime, crime and weather, crime and floods, crime and snow. And I just didn't feel like I was making a difference. Occasionally I would do a story that would help people, but it was a great training ground to learn to think on your feet and to write and to communicate with all sorts of people. But I just didn't feel like I was being the best version of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just had a desire to do more. And to make a long story short, I worked in Florida, I worked in DC, I worked in Boston, and then my contract was up. I was a reporter and a morning show host. The show ended, my contract was up, and I didn't want to stay. I didn't think I wanted to stay in Boston. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a contact who worked in DC, and he put me in touch with someone he had worked with, who said, hey, they're looking for someone to do Black History Month specials if you want to help out there. So I did that, and I worked freelance. And while I was working freelance, I was finding stories that I wanted to do more of, but I kept getting rejected. So they gave me a nice platform to do what I had gone there to do, but there wasn't a space for me to do more. And I was griping about it one day to a friend of mine, and she said, Robin, why don't you just create your own production company? And I said, I don't know how to create my own production company. And she said, you're already doing it now. You already know how to put the stories together, and you write, and you know all the mechanics of that. It's just the other stuff that everybody else is doing, like filing paperwork and getting an accountant and making sure you have the right you're incorporated properly. And so I went to a small business incubator, and they helped me write a business plan and do all of the things that you need to do to incorporate. And so that's how my production company started. That's kind of the long story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good story, though.
Thank you.
It's one of those stories that's got the summary in it that I say to people sometimes, if you look around the world and you're longing for a certain kind of leadership and you don't see that leadership available to you, it's because the leader you're longing for is you.
Oh, that just gives me chills. I mean, that really does. And I love that you say that. And I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but the reason why that's so profound and important to say, because so often in so many fields, people tell you, well, you can't because you're not this, or you're not that, or you don't have the right family or connections or what have you. So we're almost programmed to think, well, that can't be me. But what you just said forces you to flip the script and say, why not me? If I'm longing for this, why not me?
Right. Better than me.
Yes. Yes. And Kasey, I think you said in another interview or another podcast, you were talking about the book you wanted to write, and you were talking about audience and this and that. And finally, didn't someone say something to you like, write the book that you want to read, that you need to read? And so I think it's really profound, because so often we talk ourselves out of doing things because you think you can't. Yeah. And I struggle with that. I do. Even now, not imposter syndrome because I believe in my work, but just in terms of thinking bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and your leadership hero, Fannie Mae.
Yeah, Fannie
was
Lou.
Fannie Lou was like a signal of this in you, right?
Yes.
Like, I want to tell her story. There's a part of you that wants this voice to be lifted and documented and shared with the world.
Yeah. Thank you. I so appreciate you saying this is why you guys are good at what you do. Because one of my most recent films is about a woman named Odessa Madre. She was, it's called, Odessa's Reign, and she's queen of the underworld. So she was a 1950s gangster in Washington, D.C., who ran one of the most lucrative gambling rings in the country. And she had the police in her back pocket. And I was drawn to her because I was walking through Washington, D.C., and I saw just a little plaque, a little marker that said this was D.C.'s Black Al Capone. And it was near where she ran a juke joint. And I just thought she was so interesting. So I went down this path, and that was the impetus. That was the spark for my next film about her. Yeah. And what really struck me about her was, here you have this Black, corpulent, lesbian out woman in 1950s who ran a gambling ring in a man's world and was unapologetic about it. And I qualify this by saying, people have said, well, why are you glamorizing crime? And I said, I'm not glamorizing crime. I'm intrigued by a woman who lived life on her own terms and was unapologetic about it. Who she was. She said, I don't fit into this box, but I'm going to let people know that I am here. And so I think whether it be Fannie Lou or whether it be someone maybe on the other side of things like Odessa, there is a little piece of me that thinks, I think there's a little spark inside of me that respects that or wants that or desires that or has that churning inside me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Follow the spark. Listen to the spark. Turn up the light the way to 10 on the spark.
Thank you. Right. I love that. Thank you.
Well, they say that anything you see in someone else that you admire it because it's inside of you. And we tend to think like, I see the bad things in other people because, I have that bad thing in me, but we have the opposite of that as well.
Yeah. I need to remember that. That's true. That's true.
It's the law of attraction.
Yes.
We attract at the level that we're at.
Right.
Both, so it's like
both good and
you
bad.
have Yeah, you have the powerful woman, the rebel, the woman who is overlooked, but is like, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah. And that's what I loved about Fannie Lou Hamer and Odessa too, was both of them were told that they did not fit a specific mold. And I think a lot of us know what it's like to be told you don't fit in, at least for me. There's been many, many times, even when I was in local news. I mean, I did not fit a certain mold. And so that's one of the reasons why I knew I just needed to pivot. I wasn't cut out for that space, even though I really wanted it. And that's what's so funny is you can really want something. And then you have to stop and ask yourself, why do I want this so bad? Because it may be pushing you down a path that really isn't something that is best for you.
Yeah, if I could just get over this feeling of rejection.
Yes.
I might notice that I just got redirected. I didn't get rejected.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not rejection, it's redirection.
If people take nothing else from this episode other than what you just said, this is what I'd love for people to hear from this is when you get told you don't fit, perhaps that's good news.
Yes.
You were born to stand out.
Yeah.
Like not fitting is maybe a gift.
Yeah. Absolutely. Can I tell you, I actually applied for a job at a news station once. And this guy told me, you really don't fit in here. I mean, you just have too much personality. Just thought, so being personable is a bad thing? Really? Yeah. I was really scratching my head at that. Wow. Okay. What do you do with that? But
it's a way to minimize you.
Talk about
to make you feel small so you'll act small.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely
Be big
right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. And that was the best thing to like you said, that was a gift.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
How did it, in those moments in your career when you've had those moments and people want to minimize you, how do you move past it?
That's a great question because I have it's a double-edged sword because it propels me to move forward. It's an almost like an I'll show you, and yet it can also be a little voice in your head that can harass you, and on the wrong day it can be a little too loud. So I'll give you an example. Again, when I was applying for a job in Kentucky, actually, when I was a reporter, I had already worked on air. I already had a master's degree, so I had experience. I had the degree, I had the internships, blah, 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 blah. I went and interviewed, and I had researched what the salaries were there. And so I wasn't going in cold if they asked you, what is your salary range? And I said to the woman, okay, well, this is my experience. This is what I've done. I'm coming in as a reporter. And she actually asked me, okay, so what do you think you should make? And I gave her the figure based on my research. And she said, don't we think a lot of ourselves? She actually said that to me in the interview. Don't we think a lot of ourselves? And I was so stunned at the nastiness of it. And that's not the first time. That would be the first of several times throughout my career that someone has said, who do you think you are? Don't you think, you think you're great. You're not. And, I get angry thinking about it because you seem like you believe in yourself. And then you have someone who tries to sucker punch you.
Yeah.
And so when I'm negotiating is still hard for me. I have to say negotiating my rates for projects, I give a figure high, I get pushback, and then that is still hard. But what isn't hard is when I always bring my best to a project. Because when someone tries to say, you're not worth that, I'll say, you know what? I'm going to leave that garbage back here. I'm going to do my very best, and I'm going to show you that I am. So I use it to propel my standard of excellence, but I have not figured out how to be impervious to that ping, that those voices that can come in your head from time to time.
Yeah. Well, she was shaming you.
Precisely.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
She was shooting shame at you.
Yeah.
And that gets to hurt because you're a human being.
Right. You
know?
She had that little bit of power and wanted to be like, oh no. And the irony is I got a much better job. I didn't take it.
Exactly.
They still offered me the job and of course a much lower salary. And I didn't get the job and I ended up getting a job in DC. So, I mean, a much better, bigger market too. So it's funny how those things work out. And there are moments that are here to teach us. And that happened years ago. But again, it's funny how that little voice still gets in your head and you have to fight it.
You do.
You know?
It never goes completely away. But for me, it becomes a practice of like asking myself, how much power do I want to give this feedback?
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
Right. Because
absolutely.
that shame belongs to that woman, not to you.
Yes.
And then the second part is, and what am I going to create from this?
Yes.
Which is what you're saying. All of this brilliant creativity has come from you, from those moments.
Thank you.
Like, I'm going to create from this. And
yes.
I wish it didn't have to be to show them. It's more like I'm going to show myself.
That's right.
And the world that I'm worth, even if you can't see it.
That's right.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Good
right.
for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. No, you guys are terrific.
Well, so are you. We're attracting at the level that we're at here, the three of us today.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you, Robin, learned from your life as a filmmaker and documentarian and storyteller, and share that with us?
You know, I've just learned that maybe I'm more resourceful, that I am more resourceful than I thought I would be. I have to say, I'm very proud that I have had my business for 12 years and it's going to go on 13 years in May. And again, it seems so daunting. And to be able to say I have 5 films under my belt, 3 have been on PBS nationally. It's a little, it's really nice to think, wow, okay. And I have to stop and remind myself when I am having moments of frustration, because I do. I'm sure you can relate when you have clients maybe who you have to chase down for payment. So I have 2 arms of my company. I have the film side, and then I have a nonprofit, the side where I do videos and for nonprofits in their marketing and initiatives where they're trying to promote their work. So they'll hire me for their annual fundraisers to highlight successes and benchmarks they've made and people's lives that they've changed. So I've been very fortunate. I've had some wonderful clients. But sometimes you're negotiating with a client, or you're going after a client that maybe decides, oh, I don't want to do this, or just all the day-to-day things that come with running a business. You get mired down in the details. And so being able to step back and say, hey, I've been able to do this for 12 years. I'm very, very, very fortunate to be able to say, okay, I've done.
Yeah.
Have there been challenges that have come up where when it popped up, you thought, there's no way I can do this? And then you surprised yourself?
And then did it anyway?
Yeah. Well, you know what? That was with my, the most recent documentary with Odessa's Rain, because I was juggling clients and I was doing all of this research because I really wanted to do a film about her. I really did. And I got rejected twice from, I got from a huge humanities grant and from another grant. Both said, what really made me angry is both said, we don't think there's any redeeming value in this woman. We don't think there's a story. We don't think they were oddly nasty. They were oddly nasty because you get to read the comments if you want to know, well, why did I get rejected? And should I, and should I apply again? And I was reading this and I just thought, I know there's something here, but I have no idea how I'm going to do this because I keep getting rejected and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I applied one more time. Oh, and that's the other thing. People didn't want to talk about her. So DC is very conservative. And in some, just in terms of like, there's some very prim and proper people who conduct themselves a certain way. And a lot of old school Black people don't want to admit that they played the numbers game before the lottery was legal. And that was considered scandalous at the time.
Yeah.
And I had people who just would not want to talk about her. And then I was able to find just a few who came out of, out of contacts that I had who spoke to me. So that was one of those where I had to push and call. And I did it anyway. And I'm so glad I did. And I feel like I want to do even more with her story. I feel like,
yeah.
So
has the why of Odessa revealed itself yet? I hear all of the reasons why it has wanted to be buried under the surface, but why it needed to surface. Has that started to reveal to you or others yet?
Well, it's a really good question. One of the things I will say is, for me, it did reveal what I felt about her, why she resonated with me. I just thought that strength, that boldness was, I like that. You know what I mean? I love that about her. But I think also what is very telling is, when you have someone like Odessa, she was very smart. She was excellent with numbers. She memorized numbers. I mean, there were no computers and, tablets at the time. So she had an incredible memory, and she was very slick talker. And I say her story is what happens when you leave talent behind. Here she was, who created this underground economy because she had nowhere else to go. So who could she have been if she had the right opportunity? And that's my takeaway. And that's why I do think her story needs to be told, because when you leave people out of the room, when decisions need to be made, whatever it may be, whether it's policy, whether it's advertising, business, whatever, when you strategically leave people out of the room, you are leaving talent. You're leaving talent out, and you are missing an opportunity. So that's why I feel, on the broader scope, why I think her story deserves to be told.
Yeah. Sort of like saying, which star do you want to pluck out of the sky so that it shines a little less, right?
Yes.
Like, every light is important. It all adds to the conversation. It all creates perspective we wouldn't have had.
Right.
And why would we leave this woman who's full of intelligence and strength and boldness and memory and obviously artistry and skill?
That's right.
In the way of why would we not want that to be able to contribute to whatever it is we're talking about today?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I feel very strongly about, as you said, just about what it means to make a contribution. Just a very small side story. When I was researching Fannie Lou Hamer, there was a woman who, during that time, she didn't have a lot of money, and she was kind of a low-level criminal. And I remember reading about her because when they were doing training for activists during the sit-ins and during the civil rights movement to prepare for what it would be like to be jailed or whatever, she wanted to participate. And very polished people from more esteemed civil rights organizations basically said she doesn't really have anything to offer because she had been in jail and she had to. But there was an organizer who said, no, actually, she does need to be here. She's been in jail. She's going to tell us how to survive in jail. She's going to tell us what we need to do to get through it and get out so we can get out stronger. And she became one of their lead organizers. And
of course she did.
And that's what I mean by don't ever discredit people. And now I'm not talking about people who are bad and not making a contribution, but there's something to be said for if someone truly has talent. You're missing an opportunity if you don't give them a chance.
Well, and who are we to say who's good and who's bad just based on the look of a person without, before we've even investigated or gotten curious to understand what their talents could be?
That's precisely right. And I'll tell you, I think that was part of my situation in the news space. So I was very fortunate in that I worked for some nice sized markets. I was lucky that I didn't have to toil too long in small markets. So I was very fortunate. But what was most frustrating to me, I kept being told, well, you'll never be X. You'll never be that. And I just kept thinking, well, why? Why can't I ever be X? Like, why am I not? And why are you the one dictating what my potential is? Who are you to tell me what my potential is? Like, I'm hustling. I'm not missing deadlines. I'm jumping through all these hoops. I'm pitching stories. And you're telling me that you're not, no, that's not for you. That you stay over here. The best you can do is, the best you can do, hope for is this. And I just thought, that's not okay with me. Some people, that's fine. Not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Yeah.
No. There's so many things we could say about everything that you're saying. Like truly, as you're talking, I feel fired up because it's like, stop saying that whoever X doesn't fit into the box when X could just go create a whole new box.
That's it.
You know, like Odessa may not have been a criminal.
Yes.
If someone had created the space inside the box.
That's right.
For her to be a contributor a thinker. Like what she did was had to go create her own box. And of course that ended up in being criminal behavior. But had she been included, then her color could have added to your box.
Right.
And, you know, like,
correct.
You fire me up.
Yeah.
I'm right here with you.
I appreciate, but it's also, and again, it goes back to what you were saying about what were the things about Odessa that's lit in you. I mean, I'm trying to use this new year as a time of a lot of introspection. And one of the things I try not to have regrets. I try to treat them as lessons learned, though, you know, again, that's a work in progress. But I wish I hadn't spent so much time asking for permission to be at the table or at their table or to be in their box. Because there was a part of me, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, when you start out your own enterprise, there's a part of fear where the fear, again, motivates the hustle. But there's also a part of you that says, Art, I'm doing this. Hey, do you notice me over here? If you notice me over here, maybe you'll invite me to the table. And I've wasted too much time trying to get invited to the table instead of really relishing and enjoying the table that building my own. Right.
Build your own table and you decide who gets to sit at it.
Correct.
Was it the conversation with the one friend that got you to the point of deciding I'm going to create my own table, or was there more?
No, you know what's funny? She just kind of said it in passing. She's a dear friend of mine, who I knew when we first started out in Fort Myers, Florida. I was a reporter in Fort Myers, Florida, and I remember I was working as a reporter, and I ended on bad terms. Like the newsroom was toxic. People were really nasty. Like I left on terrible terms and I was so down, and she was so good to me when I left. She's like, you're going to buck up. You're going to do this. And, you know, I mean, she really did. She gave me like, it wasn't quite tough love, but it was like a gentle nudge. Like, all right, you got to dust yourself off. And so it was when I was freelancing that she just we stayed in touch, and she just said, you know, hey, you know, we would check in every now and then. And of course things change. Like she has a baby. She has 2 little ones now. And so when you become a mom, and because she initially had her own production company too. And she kind of started doing that. And then she's like, I have kids. I gotta have a steady paycheck. And I said, I totally get it. But I'll always be grateful to my friend Susanna, because she gave me that advice.
Yeah.
It's a good friend who can see what you can't
and
reminds you of it.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I have a number of really great friends. A girlfriend of mine, Whitney Lou, she's another one who was very encouraging, who said, Robin, why aren't you doing A, B, and C? And she's another one, just same thing. So I am, because they are things that you don't see for yourself, and they're like, for it.
Especially in those times in life when life has kicked us down.
Yes.
It's important to have people who we know love us, who can come kind of pick up the diamond and polish off the dust.
Oh, it's so...
And go, girl, remember you're made of diamonds.
It's so...
Get back on with shining, you know?
thank you. I love that you say that because when I left Fort Myers, you want to crawl into a hole and just hide. I mean, so I got fired because I had a fight with a producer, and it's just not my finest moment. I'll own it. Not my finest moment. But then you leave embarrassed. So I left, and I disconnected my phone and kind of went back to my parents with my tail between my legs. And so I didn't even tell my friend Whitney where I was initially. And she called my mom. And my mom gave me the phone and she said, "Whitney's looking for you."
Yeah. Yeah. She knows you're hiding and she knows where to find you.
Exactly. And I remember my older sister told me, she said, "Robin, let your friends love on you when you're having a bad moment. Like you said, Kasey, let your friends help dust you off. Fine, you're embarrassed, but pull yourself up and let them help you. Like there's no shame in saying you messed up, you're a little dirty, clean yourself up, and let your friends love you like that."
That is a really big lesson for powerful women, is that when you are a woman who is independent and you take care of everything and you show up and you're dependable, it's hard to ask for help, but also allow people to come in and love you and help you.
Yes. And the thing is, nobody's going to think anything less of you. In fact, they want to help, but for some reason you think, well, I've got to figure this out and I'm responsible and I'm all of this. And why are we doing that to ourselves?
We should stop.
Yeah.
We should stop it. Emily's been working with me on this for the last probably 2 years, if I'm being honest too. But and I call it receiving the love.
Yes.
Like letting ourselves receive the love that is here for us and surrounding us and all around us all the time.
Yes.
But when we get kicked down by life, we think we have to figure our way back up all by ourselves.
Yes.
That's conditioning.
Yeah.
That's programming. We need to let go of that stuff and go, "Hey, love, if you're around and in the spirit, come find me because I need you right now and I'm open to letting you in."
Yes.
That is not weak. It's brave.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And let me ask you this. Do you think that some of that is because you think, well, maybe I don't deserve it. I screwed up and, I made this mess. Maybe I need to just clean it up. Is it?
I think
we have an inner critic in our head that is like, no, you don't deserve it. You're not worthy of the love and you're going to inconvenience people if they show up for you. And so then you just that voice takes over and you can't hear your wisest self in that moment.
It's in my case, it's usually been because I am giving in to the shame that whatever the situation is that kicked me down in the first place told me to believe about myself.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely and you're absolutely right. Because I was horribly ashamed, and then I had this awful, this embarrassing fight, and then I'm just thinking, it just feeds on itself. It just feeds on itself.
And none of that is who you are. None of that is the truth of who you are. All of that is just maybe a partial truth about a situation.
Correct.
But then, let people come and remind you that you're made of diamonds. And get on with driving.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, and that it's twofold. We're made of diamonds, and sometimes we do things that we're not proud of, and we go, "Oof, I'm going to own it, and I'm going to move on."
Absolutely. Absolutely. You own it and you move on. That's absolutely true.
It's what I did, but it's not who I am.
It's not who I am. Right. Right. And I'm stronger for it. And that's what you remind yourself. It's like, you know what? I'm stronger for it. I'm better for it. I'm wiser for it. And that's the thing that's tricky too, is your real friends love you with, bruises and all. And it's, because during that time, I remember there were a few people who were in the field who were like, "Oh, I thought you were working at that market. Did you get fired?" And then they try to make that moment define you. And you have to remind yourself, as you said, that was a moment. That kind of was a situation, but in totality, that is not who you are. You don't let that define you.
Yeah. that was a chapter in my story. It's not my whole story.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm off to author the rest now.
Yes.
What is up for you now, Robin? What are you creating now or next?
That is a great question. I'm trying to figure that out. And it's been a fun journey. It's a challenging journey in that we often don't give ourselves space to think and be creative. And that's something that I really miss, because in the hustle and bustle of trying to make sure your business stays profitable and trying to make sure that all the things you need to do, you pay your quarterlies and you do this. And you know what I mean? All of the things that you need to do to be responsible. You haven't given yourself a chance to step back. And as we talked earlier, surrender to the process. So I'm doing that. My goal is to do a bigger project about Odessa Madre. That's one of my big goals in the near future, is to do something more with her. But I'm always looking for good stories to tell and how to bring more stories to life.
Yeah. Oh, I just feel this urge to encourage you to keep following Odessa.
Oh, thank you.
Because given everything we've said today, there's obviously some big part of her is alive in you.
Yeah.
And you're not done exploring it or creating from it yet.
Yes.
And so it's like stay in that relationship.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, until you feel it move its way all the way through you. Because what cool goodness could come from that?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And what about you guys? Because your book is finished, right, Kasey? Is your book out?
Not done. No, no. It's a story wanting to be told, and it's still taking shape and finding its way. I'm not even sure that it wants to be a book.
Oh, wow.
It may want to be a film.
Oh, nice. Nice.
What I know is that it is a juicy story that wants to be told.
That's awesome.
I am currently in a place where like my magnets are up and out into the universe, because I'm looking for a storyteller to partner with me. It's interesting, funny actually that you're here now. To see what kind of shape it wants to take. But Emily is farther along in her book writing process than I am.
Congratulations.
And see, this is the difference between how Kasey and I think is that I have a thermometer, like the children's kind, where if they're collecting pennies at school, you color it in. I have that up over on my wall, and I'm at 30%.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's funny. I'm kind of like the blend between both of you, because it's like I have the metrics, but then I also have to have like the space to kind of let the flow go, so to speak. So I appreciate, I totally get it though. I had this every year, at the beginning of every year, I have something that I read. I got from it was a business article, and it said, what are your 5-year goals? What's your 1-year goal? What's your quarterly goals? What's your monthly goal? What's your weekly goal? And I try to go back and revisit that. And I look at what worked. What did, like at the end of the year, what did I say I was going to do? And what did I end up doing? And then I kind of redo a refresh. And you have to give yourself the space to, again, be kind to yourself. If maybe you didn't check everything off the list, but be proud of the things that you did. And the 30% is great. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's both. It's both. My vision, I have these words on my vision board this year that say the daydream is a moment of hope, but in order to get there, I have to move toward it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it's both. It's like I feel the story in me, and the thermometer is a helpful tool to see that you're actually like redlining up towards your dreams.
Oh, Robin, we love to end our every episode with the same question. What are you grateful for?
Can it be more than one thing?
Of course.
And I'm so appreciative of that. I'm grateful for that question, because when we started talking early, I was saying I woke up just on the wrong side of the bed, just kind of cranky. And, these moments make you realize, I'm grateful for the wonderful family in my life. I have a wonderful husband. I love my dog. I have my siblings. And really this freedom and space to be able to create. I mean, my husband has been so supportive with my business. And so I'm very grateful that I've been able able to do that I've been able to have the space to create. And I'm really grateful for this conversation. This was even better than I thought. There were so many things when I was listening to I loved your life wheel. You did a life wheel not that long ago. And I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. Just giving you a real opportunity to just assess, where are you putting your attention and time and focus so anyway, to be able to talk to you guys after listening to my podcast, it's just really nice. So thank you.
Oh, we're so grateful.
Yeah. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Well, we will have all of your information in our show notes.
Oh, thank you.
If there's anything that one direct way that you want to tell our listeners how they can find you, what is the very best route?
Mm-hmm. I would say go to aroundrobin.com, AROUNDROBIN.com, and you can check out my work. You can check out my films. And I would love you to subscribe and be able to watch all of my films for whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
We're going to promote that. And I love your business, Around Robin.
Thank you.
It draws me in. Like, if you want to be around Robin, watch her films, listen to her podcast. I want to be around Robin. I like you. I would like to spend time and space to sit up Robin in it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're next on your list.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Robin, for listening to SoulStirred and asking to be on the show.
Yeah.
I want to just highlight that Robin was a listener of SoulStirred, and now Robin's sitting here with us on the show. And that can happen for anybody else who might be listening too. And thanks for paving that way.
Oh, sure. Well,
what an honor this has been.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, the honor is mine. You guys make it so easy. And you really are providing, a great service just in terms of just allowing people to think about how they want to live their lives and really thinking deeply about it in a substantive way.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you. SoulStirred listeners, thank you so much for joining us today as we bring you stories of growth in the human experience. We appreciate you, and we have a request for you. If you will, take 30 seconds to do these 3 things for us. 1, follow or subscribe to SoulStirredPodcast. This makes sure you never miss an episode and helps us to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to your preferred platform, click the SoulStirred Podcast show page, and click the plus sign or the follow button. Second, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating while you're there. Finally, choose your favorite episode and share it with a friend.
We are so grateful to all of our listeners for your continued support helping SoulStirred grow and ultimately inspire others through authentic connection. Don't hesitate to reach out with ideas, stories, or questions. We are always eager to hear from you. Our email and social links are found in every episode's show notes. Until next time, keep stirring your soul and embracing your journey.
Take good care of yourselves and of each other. Bye-bye.